I don't believe that balance exists. I believe it's wholeness.
I'm whole to begin with, but I have work to do.
Wholeness to me is being able to be your own bridge to your heart, through your heart.
It was so great being able to communicate and have a conversation with Allison about essential oils, but we started off on a subject that is near and dear to my heart, the idea of being an empath and what that feels like. And if you don't know what we're talking about, maybe that's a good thing. If you do know what we're talking about, then some things that we say might be really helpful. Then we move into essential oils, what they are, how they can help, what their properties, and where to begin when you want to start using essential oils and how to use them. So it's a great conversation, and stick around to the very end. There's so much to learn and to know about essential oils. And if you could do me a favor, please rate and review this podcast wherever you receive it. It helps a lot. But for now, enjoy Allison Henry talking about essential oils.
For as long as I can remember, I felt deeply. I felt things, emotions, other people's energy, just things real deeply, and had a lot of anxiety. Me not knowing how to deal with that energy and emotions really caused a lot of overwhelm and anxiety in my mind, in my body. And I always wanted a natural way to be able to deal with that. And I had tried a lot of things, a lot of talk therapy, a lot of, exercise and eating better and diet changes and all of the things as I was wanting to alleviate that stress. And I remember being introduced to essential oils as a tool, and nothing. I just, got them at the grocery store, and nothing really they didn't really speak to me. I didn't really feel like much of a difference. And so I remember just continuing on in my journey to find out what would alleviate the stress, this anxiety that I just felt, this overwhelming, constant mind racing, mind chatter. And a friend of mine, actually at school when I was working as an educator, she introduced me to doTERRA essential oils and gave me a bottle of lavender. And I remember in that instant of opening up the bottle and just taking it in. And there was this unexplainable shift that happened in my mind and in my body. There was something different. There was something felt like I couldn't explain it. There was no words for it. I didn't have to do anything. It just took in that aroma and things moved for me. And I remember thinking, what is that? And why is this happening? But I liked the feeling. And so it was that point on that I was like, what is here for me to learn about these essential oils? And why is this particular lavender so beneficial? So, and in the past, nothing really had acted like that in my body, the response. And so I became a guru. I'm a learner by trade, an educator, and I love learning and gathering knowledge. So I became an avid researcher, expert on essential oils, trying to find all of the things to learn and to just take in, right? And really became an expert on what is going on here. So that was my first dipping my toes into the oil world of really bringing calming to what I now know as my nervous system.
So there's two things I want to touch on with what you said. And one is, if me and you can have this little conversation about what that's like, because I think as what that's like, meaning those feelings, that empath, right? Those feelings of that empath, that idea. And I think it gets thrown around a lot, being an empath and those kind of things. But, and that's all that gets said. So maybe we can take this opportunity first to just kind of describe that, because what it really feels like is just this, to me, this is me talking, so I want to hear yours. It's like this difficult anxiety. It comes in as anxiety a lot. That's the what you would feel most of the time is just unsettled, or maybe that feeling of someone's going to jump around the corner, just right before you're walking, and like somebody's going to jump around the corner and scare you. It's like just that unease. How would you describe that part? Because I love that you were willing to share that.
Yeah, I would say that it is always a state of unease, on guard.
Yeah.
Like you said, somebody jumping out in front of you, or just always surveying the room.
Yeah.
Always being like, there's just this awareness that I felt of like, oh, I could see what is happening over in this corner, and then I can hear this person over here talking about me, and then I can see this lady in the back laughing, and I just like could take it all in. And it was like a gift because I could be so in tune and I could connect with people in that way, yet I didn't know how to use it as a gift at that point. I just was like, they're talking about me. She's laughing at me. I have to go over and make her feel better because she doesn't look like she's happy. I just was like trying to, it's like wading through this pool of just all of this clutter of emotion and thoughts, but it was my own. It was.
So before you understood, what were some other things that you thought it was? I mean,
yeah, I thought there was something wrong with me. I thought that like, my mind just, I was an overthinker. And people would actually say that to me at work, and they'd be like, don't overthink it.
Yes. You're such a deep thinker. You're such a deep thinker. I got that so often. It was like, okay, what do I do with that? Yes.
Yeah. And so I was just navigating my external world, trying to prepare myself for anything that was going to come, but always be ready to respond to what was going to come up and have tools. And really, I was taking care of and nurturing all the other people in my family, my intimate relationships, my work cohort, just anyone really that I came in contact in the street. And that was exhausting. Yeah. It's such an energy drain when I did not know how to conserve my own energy from just totally like rushing out to every other person.
Yes. How did it change, or what was it like? Did it change differently from when you were younger? Like, did it show up differently when you were like elementary to high school to adulthood? How did it show up differently? I'm interested.
Yes. Yeah, I think the word anxiety is so long, like the umbrella term that you said. And for me as a child, anxiety showed up as like, I didn't want to take that test. So my stomach, like it was always stomach. It was a lot of stomach pain and upset. I had to go to the nurse to get away from a situation or a test or whatever and go home. It was like this, remove yourself from the situation was how I dealt with it. I shied away from connection and connecting to my peers. Like it showed up as I was an independent person because I love to be like alone and retreat. And I see those same patterns play out, obviously, as I am an adult now. Through college, it was panic attacks, social anxiety of, being at large crowds. As I was a teacher and educator, it was, not being prepared enough and being anxious and really the term burnout then, because when you're an educator and you're serving 30 children emotionally, physically, teaching them every single day, that if you do not have a way of managing your energy and, taking care of this internal space, then you do reach burnout, Yep. And so that's what it looks like for me in my education career, that and really left that then 2 years ago because it was my health and mental well-being, or I was going to continue to do that. Even though I was learning techniques, even though I had, essential oils, I had tools, I had practices, I had support. yeah, I just knew that there was another way that I was going to share my gifts with the world, that was also not. So again, then my anxiety comes in as a blessing. Like,
Right.
telling me like, hey, this is not what you're doing for the next 20 years of your life. Although very
Right.
valiant work, very amazing, loved my job. And there was the other part of like, and there's more for you to
Yeah.
explore. So it's a blessing and a curse is what I have always.
It always is. My dad would always call me, his word was bashful. Like, you're so bashful, he would say, or I was shy. And that always just like, and he meant it in a loving way, but it was just kind of like, I don't know how to do any different. You know what I mean? I don't know what to do differently. And in fact, one of my, you have those moments in elementary, one of those trauma moments. It was third grade, the first day of third grade. I walked in and sat down, and my teacher was a male, and he'd always taught fifth and sixth grade. And then this was his first year teaching third graders. And we were just sitting there, and I remember just melting in that moment. Like, I didn't know what happened, but I just melted, and tears just started to drip down my face. And I was just devastated, and I cried the whole day. And we'd go out to recess, and I would just stand next to the wall crying. And people are like, what's going on? And I remember just, I don't have any friends. Like, that's all I could come up with. I did not know what was happening, but it was just such an overwhelm of grief. Like, it was such grief and I didn't know, I couldn't understand why. And I remember so much of that day just struggling. So I got in the end of the day, go to get in the car, and my mom takes one look at me and she says, what happened? And I just started crying again. I says, I don't know. I just don't have any friends, like I couldn't, even as I said it, it didn't justify I didn't know what was happening. Mm-hmm. Luckily she was like, transferred me out of that class. And I felt bad. I didn't feel like it was anything, but it was years later when I thought, oh, that's what was going on, because this man was full of so much grief. I mean, you could see, if I showed you a picture of him, you'd say, oh yeah. I mean, he was just a sad person, and when I discovered that, oh my gosh, do you know how many years, like, I felt so many years of relief when I realized, oh, that's what happened. Because I still, to this day, I wouldn't have been able to tell you what was going on. I was just so sad, crying all day long. And all I could say was, I don't have any friends, but I did. I mean, it was a third grade, because it's so unexplainable, it's so unexplainable. And then when you do get to that point, when you're able to see it as the superpower, now it doesn't mean, just like you said, I loved how you said, I had all the tools, but I still needed to figure it out. It's true. I still needed to figure out how to make it my superpower, how to make it my gift. And a lot of times we think if we don't have the gift full on, then it doesn't really count. But even a gifted pianist practices hours and hours a day. Even a gifted athlete still puts in time, and so you had to kind of do that. You have to practice. You have to hone that tool, that gift. So that's amazing. And
if I can just interject there, what you brought up is like what I didn't do was feel it. I didn't process. I didn't move the feeling. Like, it wasn't okay. So I knew, and I remember always being offered like an antidepressant or just to calm the fit. And I remember the description the doctor gave me was that this is just going to help you not feel. Mm-hmm. And it was like such a beautiful awareness point for me. I was like, wait a second, that is it. Like, I'm not feeling. I'm totally, like you said, I started crying, and that like release is just so healing. And it moves it, versus I was like trying to do something with it in my body, but it was just being stored. Like, I was just pushing it down, versus letting it go. And when I was using oils, it would calm my body. And then I was like, okay, now it's like, okay, we need to release these emotions and or feel the feeling.
Right.
If you're not feeling it and you're
Yeah.
not, and you're an empath, like where does all of that energy go? Where is
Right.
that at if you're not moving it out? And so, yeah, just allowing myself to feel. I read a book once, it was called Permission to Feel, um, by Mark Brackett, I believe. And it was just so like, I am not allowing myself to feel. And I intuitively knew I don't want this. I don't want this prescription to make that not happen. But it was like, ding, you aren't allowing yourself to feel. So how do you work with this now? Like that's your next step of allowing yourself to feel. And it's safe, whatever you're feeling in your body, it's safe to feel it. But if you don't start feeling it, you also don't know if it's yours or someone else's.
Right.
You're just kind of holding on to it and you're just so tense and bound up by all of it. So weighed down.
That's so important to say because we, even in our little world, it's like, oh, you got to release it. But something, if you don't go into the how, then sometimes they're just like, pretend like it's not there, release it. Like, don't have that feeling. And what you're actually doing is just stuffing it down in or suppressing it. So you're saying really actually feel the feeling is that's the releasing, is actually feeling it. And then how do you feel the difference between when it's yours and when it's someone else's?
Yeah. So first it was calming the body. Once I could learn how to get calm in my own body.
Yes.
And I knew what calm felt like.
Yes.
Because I never knew what it felt like. And so how would I have ever known if it was mine or someone else's if I never really could get calm in here and feel what it felt like to be at peace? Because then I could realize, like, how am I feeling right now? I could ask myself, actually, first and foremost, what am I feeling like right now? And am I nervous? Or am I, at peace? Is this, and whose nervous energy am I feeding off of?
Right.
And even in the car with my partner, I could notice like I would always be so jumpy and not trusting of him driving or, whatever's going on. And I'm like, is this really mine? Or was this also like patterning of my father growing up, right? Just watching what would happen and replicating a pattern. And knowing that like we had a dog at the time, and the dog was really anxious, which my partner would be like, sit down, and nervous. And then there was me. And I was like, at times I could either choose to tap into that or stay in my peace. So it was just like small awarenesses then in everyday life of like me asking myself and getting curious. Is this mine or am I actually at peace? Like, what am I feeling? Especially when you step into something. I mean, it's like when you're like so excited for something to happen and you're there and then all of a sudden, like you said, you're sitting in that classroom and like it just is taken away from you.
Yeah.
So you're like, wait a second, how did that shift so quickly? What is that? So
yes.
And I use my oils to help me, I think, as a crutch. And I've always used them, it's like, no, I'm really feeling this. And let me just anchor into and like reaffirm that, no, I'm feeling at peace. And so let me just put on some peace,
Yeah.
Cooler, right. And just ground into that because, nature has always been a support tool for me, whether it's out in nature or it's the oils or it's plants in my home. I'm have surrounded by green growing, things, and that's always gave me solace. So that's I anchor it in with that. And then if it's still off, then I know something, maybe I am feeling something different, right? Or maybe it is my own, but if I can, recalibrate and reconnect to that within me, that peace, then it's not mine.
Yep. With essential oils, a lot of times the emotional aspects of the oils don't get as much attention. And yet for me, that's the part I depend on. That's the part that speaks to me the very most. So tell me a little bit about, for someone, maybe there are a few people left on the world that don't know about essential oils, but because you could walk into a dollar store and find essential oils nowadays, like they are mainstream, so, but just because you can find them at Walmart, maybe not, doesn't mean you understand what they are, or the difference between why there are so many options or so many different types or whatever. So just tell us a little bit about essential oils, and let's start there.
Yeah, so essential oils are aromatic compounds. They are part of the plant. They come from either the bark or the flowers, the citrus, the fruit, the leaves, any part of the plant that is distilled down. And so it really is the plant's essence also.
Mm-hmm.
It's the plant's chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where we come into the conversation of purity and all essential oils not being created equally, because I can grow lavender in my backyard
Mm-hmm.
and it be chemically so. And then it can be grown in Bulgaria in this rich soil that has been tended to for decades, and in this, in the correct climate, with the correct nurturing, with the correct pests, because the oil is the is a protectant of the plant. And so it's really what it uses to protect itself against invaders, against virus, against bacteria. And so they need, there's a response there, right? And
it's like an immune system for the plant.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
And it's definitely, so if you don't have the invaders, you're not boosting the immune system. And so there's just this whole piece around the chemistry being pure and as it should be when the plant is grown in its natural habitat versus my backyard in a soil that who knows what's in the soil and how, all the things. So there's just a difference there. And so looking for brands and an oil that is grown in its native way and cared for by people who know what they're doing and who replenish the soil and take care of it and harvest it at the correct time.
Yeah.
Right. And harvest it in the right way. And so it really makes a huge difference when we're talking about purity and potency, so that you do get the therapeutic, the benefits that you're looking for. And if not, you're not going to feel those benefits, right? Maybe the aroma will be there, but not the therapeutic benefits to your body. Also, a lot of them are adulterated and things are added to them or taken away from them so that they spread further and they, companies make more money and more profit. And so just as with a lot of different industries, you have to know where you're getting them from and a trusted source. And the aroma, like the science, there's so much science behind aroma. And aromatherapy is the key, is a word that we've heard. But there is this, your olfactory system, when you take in aroma. Actually, I just learned, we can talk about your sense of smell and how powerful it is, and it unlocks memory, and it goes to the amygdala in your brain and the part of your brain where emotions and memory is stored and all of that science. But one of the things that I learned recently was that your vagus nerve, which is a direct link from your brain, to your body, like all the way through into your organs, it meets the outside world through our olfactory bulb. So the only outside, the only link to the outside is through your sense of smell. And so your vagus nerve, when I was talking about, calming my nervous system from anxiety, your vagus nerve is the switch. Because if you are in sympathetic or fight, flight, freeze state, in this anxious running state, you're not in the other state of your nervous system. So one fires at a time. You can't be in both. You can't be in rest, digest, and like go mode, fight, flight, or freeze. And we call that survival mode. And so if you're in survival mode, you want to switch off into rest and digest. It's really through your vagus nerve, stimulating your vagus nerve, that activates that switch. It is that on-off switch for your nervous system. And so it's two-way communication. It has a communication to all organs in the body. And so I just that is why when I first opened that bottle of lavender and it was pure and it was, potent, it had that chemistry, and we are dynamic, we are chemistry. And so when you bring in a chemistry from a plant that is natural, and it interacts with your body in such a way through that olfactory system into your brain, but also into all organs, because it's going through the vagus nerve and just all through your bloodstream. Like, what can happen, right? Well, how powerful is that? I don't know, what other tool can work to shift your nervous system pretty quickly, be all throughout your bloodstream in about 30 seconds, and just like tell your body it's safe. And then your mind too can follow. Versus us trying to fix the mind or shift the thought,
Right.
or shift our attention away from, whatever the stressor is. And yet our body just doesn't feel safe.
Right.
I was just sitting in the tub, relaxing the other night, and I'm like anxious, I'm like, why is my attention, right? And so it's like bathing in one of my favorite oils is copaiba for the nervous system, just to really support. But it's like, telling the body it's safe, getting your body involved versus just my mind.
Right. But it's the mindset. We're so good about, I mean, I get the whole, we got to change our mindset, but sometimes when it's in our body, so you're so smart to go to the body, because if we just change our mind, you're basically just gaslighting yourself. No, you're not. No, you're not. But your body's not, you cannot turn off that anxiety in your body, but just saying, no, you're not, unless you shut it down, unless you shut it down. And if you shut it down, it is its own on-off switch. You shut all the emotions down. You shut all the positive as well as that negative emotion you're trying to get rid of. So that's really important. Two things I just wanted to validate and talk about was, I think about, because there's people think about the quality of the oils, and I always just say, to a real cook, there's, if you have chocolate chip cookies made with, there's there's an imitation vanilla, or there's the real stuff, and they're just not the same thing. They're not the same thing. And in fact, have you tried making desserts with the vanilla essential oil? I have. I keep it in my little cabinet, and it's like frosting made with like vanilla, Madagascar vanilla essential oil is like the bomb compared to because it's oil, it holds the flavor much better than even the alcohol does. But anyway, little side note. Also, I learned the idea of what you're talking about it, that moving into the central, the vagus nerve and into your body. A few years ago, my sister's husband was diagnosed with a sort of skin cancer, and it was just a sore. So they just decided to do some radiation and, and some just pump up his immune system. And that was the plan. It was supposed to be no big deal. And then and all of a sudden it shifted. Like I tell you, there was some kind of intelligence in there. I swear it was strange, but it shifted to where the cancer moved to the lining of his brain, And they told him how difficult that was because nothing penetrates the lining of the brain except for essential oils, are one of the few compounds that can actually penetrate that lining of the brain. And I thought that was an unfortunate lesson in learning that. But so that's why they're starting to use that in hospitals. I know at Johns Hopkins they have some essential oil and aromatherapist, I think, that comes in and ask you if you'd like, would you like to try these aromatherapies, and it's starting to become something that it didn't cure the cancer of my brother-in-law, but that calming that, to get, because if you want to, if like you say, you're either in fight or flight or you're in a state of calm, well, that state of calm is going to help you heal much better than another state. And when you're under stress, it's really easy to go into that fight or flight mode, right? So
Yeah, I mean, well, like you said, all healing takes place in that parasympathetic state.
yes,
So if we don't turn that on, even if we're sleeping, I
right,
used to wake up and be clenched fists or, my jaw tight. Like,
right.
how relaxing is that?
Mm-hmm.
Or gut stuff. Like if we can't digest, if we're never don't have enough resources to help digest the food and to rest and to do the things that, because our body's always in that go mode of I need
Right.
to take care of this threat or help this person run away.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, and you bring up a good point of the oils being able to break the blood brain barrier, which is what you were referring to, and
Mm-hmm.
enter into cells. So things like there's a lipid, like there's a membrane around our cells that is fatty, and because an oil is oil and fat and like
Mm-hmm.
oil can penetrate that versus it being water. And a lot of our synthetic medications are things made in a lab and given to us to help.
Right.
And that's why, when you go to the doctor and they say to rest and to relax. Well, one, when you're stressed and you're sick or you don't feel good, like your body shuts you down,
Mm-hmm.
because it's like we need to go into this mode. And essential oils can also go into the cell and to help whatever's replicating in there. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so it's just different than, having a tool. It also alleviated my anxiety. My
Yeah.
anxiety of like, I'm not going to be able to handle this or that, or just whatever comes our way. Cause life, and like you said, an unfortunate situation, but just really knowing that I have tools to support that nervous system and then watch what other healing can take place. And I myself have seen myself in the last 2 years from burnout in an education setting and like leaving that to where I am today, and the health and the vitality and my energy levels and my, just all of any of the symptoms that I've had in the past, like have all been alleviated, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so what a precious gift too, I have felt is like, I know the best gift to give the next generation or to my loved ones is a peaceful heart, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is a calm nervous system.
Yes.
And if I do not know how to calm my nervous system, then, and this was shown up so big for me recently, my grandmother was at the end of life and had really hard dementia, and just watching her deteriorate in a really quick, kind of rapid way
Mm-hmm.
was hard. But it was so interesting to watch my family members and to watch other people and how they interacted with her or how they couldn't handle it or how they were fearful of what's next or what's being lost. And those are all very valid, feelings as
Mm-hmm.
human. But I just could watch how I was, and I know myself prior to my growth in this area of like, I'd be thinking, what's next? Or what can I do to help her? Or how do I take care of this? Or, what can I do and be in this busy mode versus just being present with her?
Mm-hmm.
Being present with her soul, with her heart, connected to her energy, and just being
Mm-hmm.
present with what is and okay with what is.
Mm-hmm.
Because before it was never, I was worried about what's happening in the future, what I did in the past, like, how am I going to respond? Who needs me? What needs to be done? And I could just like feel this, like, just this presence. And so
Mm-hmm.
I now know, I mean, I've heard people say this, that's the best gift you can give is a peace
Yeah.
heart. And I just felt that. And I was like, wow, that was so beautiful to be able to give this peaceful heart to her. And she felt
Wow.
it. And to my family, who was not as, you know, skilled or
Right.
be able to access that as I had just really gone through a lot of training, right?
Mm-hmm.
And my own work in that area. So,
Yeah, we don't teach that.
no.
We just don't teach that anywhere. We don't. We just go go go. I don't know. I hope that changes actually, and maybe that's why we have conversations like this, and maybe that's how we make a difference. But how do you use the oils? Like, how do you use them in your life?
Yeah, so they're everywhere. They're stationed throughout my home. And I grab them. I put them out and I just
Yeah.
have them. And I really believe that, I mean, there are a few things. I have a few that I use on a regular basis in the morning and at night. I really believe that like a wake up, a morning routine, and then a wind down routine is really beneficial and a really loving way to bookend your day and to be more intentional in your day. And so I do have like a routine in the morning and at night, but literally, they're just around. And so as I'm aware, I just grab, like, I believe that the body knows what it needs. And so if I have this, just choose one and smell it. If I have this thought like, oh, I need peppermint, then I just grab it and I will either put a drop in my mouth. I love to put it in my water, or I will just, apply it to, in my hand and rub wherever I feel intuitively guided to, over my heart, the back of my neck, and just take a moment. It's almost like, I joked, it was like how smokers take a smoke break? It's like an oil break, It's like, hold on, I need
love
my
it.
oil break, right? I need to just ground myself, be with myself, choose something that feels good to me, inhale the aroma, and just connect with yourself for just a moment. And so that's really how I use them throughout the day for emotions. And physically, I'm drinking them in my water. I'm taking them as supplements for different body system support.
So when you now, the different oils have different properties. They support different areas. So how would that, to somebody that doesn't know, how does that look? What does that look like? How does that show up? Like, what does, lavender is a good example. That's one of the simplest ones. And in fact, just to circle back, I do grow lavender in my backyard, and I tell you what, it's harder to grow out here. It's like, it's dry, like it's temperamental. I can tell it does not love it here. I'm in a dry climate. So I can attest to. I mean, not that it's not beautiful and stuff. It's beautiful and things like that, but it's turned into the drier kind of a plant, I can tell, than it would be in its natural habitat. But anyway, so lavender, a lot of times we're hearing that that has to go with like sleep. All the little baby stuff now has lavender in it. So what are some of the properties that you can think of, and what's the difference? What are some ones people can start with?
Yeah, so lavender is high in linalool, which is a calming chemical constituent. And so, as you said, all the oils have chemical constituents, but you can think of them as in nature. So the tree oils, trees are rooted and strong. And so if you're looking for emotional support of grounding, getting your feet in nature was really great, right? And so the same with oils, getting tree oils. And there's a blend called Balance, which is the grounding blend that just putting on the bottoms of your feet can really help ground you to start your day, but then also at the end of your day, or, throughout. And then if you look at like florals are like flowers out in nature. When we roses are what we bring in for celebrations, right? Celebrations of life or of weddings, of parties. And roses are of love, because rose has the highest vibration of any plant and the oil. And so whenever you're looking for connecting to love and having a higher vibration of moving yourself into that more loving space, trusting space, florals are good to go to. And that's why we have them at those events, because they do emanate this high vibe and they make us feel loved. And so rose is the oil of divine love, and just the oils in the florals, like lavender is also, but it's like calming, soothing, loving, all of that, like pampering. Citrus oils, when we look at citrus, I mean, we know that citrus uplifts us. And so anything in the citrus oil family, lemon, grapefruit, tangerine, those are high in limonene, which is a chemical constituent that helps us, lots of cleansing. cleansing negativity, cleansing out, detoxing the body, filtering the organs, and uplifting our mood. So cleansing out to uplift. And then we have the, so the trees, grounding, rooted. Flowers are loving and more feminine, connected.
Yeah, celebratory, maybe even.
Yeah. And then citrus being cleansing and uplifting to the body. So there's kind of categories that they fall into. You don't be the science guru or know all the chemistry. But what's really fascinating is that, I mean, each oil has a chemistry list of different chemical components, but one is always like high percentage, right? And but like frankincense, for instance, which is well known and called the king of essential oils, has hundreds of chemical constituents in it. And so if you think of a chemical constituent as an active ingredient in this chemistry, when you're taking in frankincense, we say, it does all things. And so it just has so many chemical constituents that can come into your body and do what your body is looking for in that moment, to support in various ways. So it, you don't have to always know what you're calling them in for. You're intuitively also guided. And frankincense is one I just use every single night, 2 drops under my tongue. I get it into my body, into my systems, my bloodstream. And it is the king of oils, one just really, a biblical oil, a gift, a beautiful oil to use. So.
Yeah, I love learning about frankincense being a representative of the male and myrrh is representative of the female. I'm like, yes, I love that. I love that.
Mother and father, yes.
Yep, I love that. So if we just started out with maybe pick your favorite citrus, pick your favorite tree oil, which balance, I mean, that's my favorite smelling oil of all time. I think it smells so good. And then a flower, pick your favorite flower. Geranium's another good flower. I've liked geranium. I was trying to think of some other ones, but there's some good, if you picked one of those one of each category, that would be amazing.
And if you go on PubMed, which is like research, where all the peer reviewed medical journals and things are posted, and you type in essential oils and, nervous system healing or brain health, cognition, all the things, like, you're getting research now. There are things coming up. So more and more people are hearing about that. So the history is long before, way long ago, that people used these gifts of the earth. We just got disconnected from that. And then as they become more available, and we were able to find pure sources all around the world. And really what I love about doTERRA is partnering with the farmers. They have a co-impact sourcing model where they direct one-to-one with a farmer. And so I just think there's something about knowing the farmer, working direct with the farmers who are growing the product really matters too, for me. Not only because we can support the farmer, we get to know the farmer, we, give them what they need to produce this beautiful, pure plant. Like, let's say, tea tree. If they're growing this, or vetiver, this tall grass in this arid place, like, we go and support, doTERRA goes and supports this farming community that knows what to do, but yet maybe needs resources, and also needs the payment to keep producing, right? Because vetiver is a plant, it's a tall grass, and it grows, and it takes a long time to maturity. And so what happens is sometimes people need the money quicker, or they cut it too soon and take it to market to get paid for. But partnering with doTERRA gives people money up front to really take the process to where we need it to be and not cut corners. And so much, in our industries and things is like cutting corners and making money, and there's no shame in that. Yet when you're wanting this pure, like back in the day when they used these as medicinal, valuable gifts of the earth, they didn't cut corners.
Right.
And so if we're wanting to go back to that same use of essential oils and really talk science and what it does for the mind and the body, then we need that purity. So partner, the only way to do that is to partner with a farmer, right? And to have their expertise, their plants, their soil, all of the things, and to take care of them so that they can take care of the plants and do what they love. And then we get the benefit also. So it's benefiting all people and the community at large. And it's a beautiful, beautiful process.
I love it. We'll make sure to put your link in and down in the notes so that if people want to purchase these things, they can click and get those from you. And do people do you do appointments, or what kind of things do you do for people? Let's let them know.
Yeah, absolutely. So I do offer on my website, there is a free connection call. It's a 20-minute connection call where, I can personalize the essential oils and natural supplements that would help you in whatever your health goal is, whether it's, emotional well-being or it's a physical body symptom. All of the things. And so just meeting and having a one-on-one wellness consult, if you will, and go through and then personalize not only what tools would best support you, but also a protocol, right? Of like, how can I, because what works for me is not necessarily the best, way that you're going to be able to use them in your daily life. And so I also help people with the systems and routine implementation, which is where the consistency, because with oils, consistency is key. It's not that we take a pill and we can wait 8 hours, but we want to be using them and to get into the habit of less is more often. And so really helping people to build that consistency and habit is really key. So I can help with that as well.
That's amazing. That's a great value. So we will make sure to put that link in the description, and so people can reach out to you. And we have some cool graphics in the library that you've given us, and some videos as well. So we're excited, and we're doing our Wholeness Network show, so we'll have you on there in a little bit too. And people can actually come on and ask you questions, and you can help them. We'll figure that out a little later, but we always ask our guests to tell us a little bit about wholeness. What does wholeness mean to you? What does that word mean to you? How does it show up for you? How do you interact with the idea of wholeness? What does that mean to you?
Yes. So you are whole, just as you are right now. And I think that it's like looking at all of the ways that we block that concept from ourselves. So whether that's emotions that need to be released, or it's body systems that need cared and nurtured and loved on, or it's mindset shifting, that we need to reprogram patterns that no longer serve us, or disconnect, and release. But yeah, I really just think that wholeness, I always thought that there was something to get me there. Yet I'm shifting now to believe that it is here, that I am whole, mind, body, heart, spirit. I am whole and perfectly created just as I am right now. And I either need to tune into that, tap into it, ignite it, and find and care for and love all of the pieces of me. And that's what makes me whole and unique. And that really is why I use essential oils, because it's one tool that can help me access my gifts and connect my mind to my body to my mind, my soul, my spirit, my emotions, like all of the pieces. And so, yeah, that's what wholeness means to me, is just really being in this cohesiveness of accepting all of the parts of you, getting to know all of the parts of you, and loving and honoring all the parts of you.
Feel empowered every day with wholeness videos, meditations, downloads, classes, and more by joining the Wholeness Library at thewholenessnetwork.com.